Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. As part of the major new initiative, the Build Back Better agenda, President Biden is about to go to the mat. President Biden is about to go to the mat for four major tax plans designed to raise $1.8 trillion in revenue in order to be able to raise money for infrastructure spending and for the social safety net programs that President Biden is including in his Build Back Better agenda. Here's a brand new article that's published by Axios, and you'll get a link to all of our resources in the description section below. President Biden's true tax priorities. So folks, the big ticket item as far as tax priorities are concerned for President Biden is going to be raising the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. That's going to be worth $730 billion over 10 years, according to the Tax Policy Center. The other three components, if you will, of this major tax plan, the first being the increase in the corporate tax rate, will be to impose a global minimum tax on profits from foreign subsidiaries. So if you have an American company that has a foreign subsidiary, then that foreign subsidiary will now have to start paying taxes. This is going to raise about $550 billion. The capital gains tax is a lower tax than income tax, but President Biden is going to propose that capital gains will be taxed the same as regular income for wealthy individuals, and in addition, there'll be a tax on unrealized capital gains at death. So in other words, the beneficiary, after the death of the primary person, the beneficiary would get what's called as a stepped up basis, would not have to pay taxes, and would be able to depreciate assets like real estate all over again. Well, guess what? President Biden wants to close that loophole. That is a third component that is expected to raise $370 billion. And then the final component is return the top individual rate for those making more than $400,000 a year to the pre-Trump rate before the Trump 2017 tax cuts of 39.6%. This would raise $110 billion. So now let's add all of this up. Increasing the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%, $730 billion. A global minimum tax, $550 billion from foreign subsidiaries. Taxing the rich more, taxing their capital gains as regular income, and plugging the loophole where the unrealized gains are not taxed upon death. That will raise $370 billion. And raising the top individual tax rate for those making more than $400,000, that's $110 billion. When you add up all of these numbers, you get a grand total of $1.76 trillion to be exact, almost $1.8 trillion. And this is how the Biden administration plans to start raising revenue over the next several years to pay for the infrastructure plan. Folks, this is not the end of it. If anything, the haggling has just begun. According to Axios, Biden's approach to taxes is both ideological and political. He views increasing taxes on corporations and the wealthy as a fundamental matter of fairness and a way to reduce income inequality. And also, here's the bottom line. Officials expect most of the haggling to happen on the corporate rate, both on the top percent and the global minimum tax for big corporations. So repealing the Trump tax cuts on the wealthy is going to be much easier, making people who make more than $400,000 pay more in taxes. But it raises at most about $150 billion. That's not a whole lot of money in the grand scheme of things, not nearly enough to pay for all of the spending that is about to happen with the infrastructure plan. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And folks, I have some other important news also to share with you, important news that has emerged in the past 24 hours. The White House pandemic response advisor, Andy Slavitt, said that governors, local governors, lifting mask mandates know that they're not helping. He said, to me, a mask feels like a very small price to pay to protect people's lives. Let's roll the tape and hear what Slavitt had to say.
Well, I think the governors know better. I think the governors know that they're not helping the cause, that they're actually weighting down the cause, and that they may think it's a popular thing to do. I don't think that's the case. I think people want to be told what the truth of the matter is. The mask, to me, a mask feels like a very small price to pay to protect people's lives, to save people's lives. We're seeing death rates go up, even with more vaccinations, because we have millions and millions of people that haven't yet been vaccinated.
Interesting point. Now let's move on to someone a little bit more controversial, not as controversial as former President Trump, but definitely a controversial character, Hillary Clinton. Here's an interesting segment where Hillary Clinton talks about changing the narrative, and she said, hey, we talk about the right to bear arms. She said, what about the rights of everyone else, the right to go to work, to school or to the grocery store without fear. In a very candid discussion, Hillary Clinton said some things that are pretty thought-provoking. Whether you agree or disagree is your decision, but let's listen. Let's roll the tape.
The opportunists on the other side, like Cruz and his ilk, they know better, and they are in the position of trying to keep people really riled up and scared that sensible gun legislation like we had in the 90s for 10 years will somehow undermine their rights. Well, what about the rights of all the rest of us? The rights of us to go to work, go shopping, go on dates to the movie theater, go to school, for heaven's sakes. What about the rest of us? You know, democracy is the balancing of interests and rights. And unfortunately, at this time, the gun worshippers have a huge advantage because of the filibuster and because of their shameless exploitation of people's unwarranted fears.
That was indeed interesting. Let me know what you think. Now, let's shift gears to the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who's made it very clear that he does not support increasing taxes on corporations. He said, and I quote, "We are not where we were a year ago. A year ago, we had no vaccine. A year ago, we were shutting down the economy." New comments from the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell about their opposition to pretty much everything that President Biden is proposing now. Let's roll the tape and hear from Mitch.
I did not support the last package. In fact, not a single member of my party did support the last package, and I want to tell you why. $1.9 trillion was about the size of the CARES Act a year ago. Well, we're not where we were a year ago. A year ago, we had no vaccine. A year ago, we were shutting down the economy. A year ago, we weren't quite sure what to do or how quickly we could come out of this. This is not last year.
Now, shifting gears from a philosophical opposition to the truly bizarre, I'm about to show you a rather bizarre clip of Congressman Randy Weber, who's a Republican from Texas, essentially spreading what I think are conspiracy theories when these lawmakers were down at the border. This is what he says. "I'm not saying the Bidens are getting money from the drug cartel, but their policy, or maybe I should say lack thereof, of keeping Americans safe is absolutely enriching drug cartels." Look, when I heard that, I'm going, what? Let's roll the tape.
Weren't the Bidens the one that got money from the Russians, from the Chinese, and from the Ukrainians? And now what they're doing, I'm not saying they're getting money from the drug cartel. We're losing our mic. Are we on? Test, are we on? I'm not saying that they're getting money from the drug cartel, but their policy, or maybe I should say lack thereof, of keeping Americans safe is absolutely enriching the drug cartel.
Shifting gears to slightly more normal matters, the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked to comment on how the Biden administration could help student loan borrowers, and she said the Biden administration is going to expand a pause on federal loan collections and payments for about 800,000 borrowers with defaulted loans. And she added, this is the important part, the president continues to call on Congress to cancel $10,000 in debt for student loan borrowers. Important comments because this is still on the table. Let's roll the tape and hear from Jen Psaki.
We will be expanding the pause on student loan interest and collections to the more than 1 million borrowers who are in default on a loan that was made by a private lender in the old bank-based loan program known as the Federal Family Education Loan Program. This step particularly protects 800,000 borrowers who are at risk of having their tax refunds seized. That's actually a pretty significant steps. The president continues to call on Congress to cancel $10,000 in debt for student loan borrowers. That's something Congress could take an action on, and he'd be happy to sign. We're still taking a closer look at our option.
Now, folks, there are things in Washington, D.C. that never cease to amaze me. Here's another episode of the D.C. Comedy Hour. As part of the D.C. Comedy Hour, you know that President Biden has been pushing states to not lift restrictions. He's encouraging people to wear a mask. And the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was specifically asked if governors are, I quote, ignoring the administration regarding the pandemic restrictions, to which Jen Psaki replied, I don't think we see it that way. I'm about to show you a clip where you can judge for yourself. First, let's hear what Jen Psaki had to say.
I mean, are governors sort of going their own way and ignoring you all?
I don't think we see it that way, Jeff, but I would say that One of the ways we can impact people across the country is by acknowledging this is hard. We've been at war with this virus for a long time. And to reiterate, as the president did yesterday, as Dr. Walensky did yesterday, that we continue to be at war with the virus.
So here's an interesting segment. 48 hours ago, the president said, please wear masks, this is not political. 24 hours ago, Governor Asa Hutchinson, the Republican from Arkansas, simply said, we are lifting mask mandates. I'm sure Governor Hutchinson knows what President Biden said, but chose to do something different. Let's roll the tape and check this out.
I'm reiterating my call for every governor, mayor, and local leader to maintain and reinstate the mask mandate. Please, this is not politics.
And so by the criteria that we set, it's an appropriate time to lift the statewide mask mandate.
There you have it, everyone. The DC Comedy Hour, all the unbelievable, bizarre things that happen in DC, bizarre things that are said by lawmakers and people in the administration. Pretty incredible. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think about President Biden's attempts to go for the mat with these 4 major tax initiatives to try and raise income, to pay for the infrastructure plan, to pay for all these social safety net programs that are emerging. Folks, the focus from the Biden administration is not only what they want to do, but also how they are going to pay for it, which again was the focus of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments section below what you think. Also, please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I'd really appreciate your feedback on all the content in this episode of Ignition Time. I read the comments and I appreciate your participation. Our community is growing very rapidly. Don't forget to check me out on Twitter. This is my Twitter feed. Follow me on Twitter and you'll be able to keep up with the news, what I'm following, what I'm reading in real time. So definitely become a part of our Twitter community. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.